fans. I'm Kristen Kennedy, and this is the show where we bring you the day's biggest movie news, and of course we give you insight into what it all means. Joining me, as always, is AMC Movie News Senior Editor, Mr. John Campea.
Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the show, coming to you, of course, from our TheStream.tv studios here in Hollywood, California. We're so glad you're joining us today. I got to tell you, quick, last night was a lot of fun. Last night was the red carpet LA premiere of Thor: The Dark World. My wife and I, Anne, here's a picture of us at the event last night, got to go to the event. We had such a great time. Got to stand around, talk a little bit with Kevin Feige. I know Dennis and Kristen Lee were on the carpet covering it, and they got to talk to a lot of cool people too. Just a lot of fun. And I got to tell you, as I started to walk down the red carpet, the most unexpected thing happened. Walking down, and I hear this voice, because right along the carpet there's this barrier where all the fans line up so they can see the stars going down, and guests walk down there too. And we start hearing these voices, and I screaming at us, AMC John, AMC John. And we stop and turn, and there's a couple of AMC Movie Talk fans that say, can we get your picture, can we get a picture? So we go over and get our picture taken with them, and as we're leaving, I hear this girl standing beside them going, who's that? He goes, oh, he's AMC John. And you can tell she still had no idea who I was, but because somebody else knew who I was, she called me back to come back because she wanted a picture too, even though she had absolutely no clue who I was. But that was a lot of fun last night. It was my second time seeing Thor. I'm going to see it for a third time again in the next 48 hours. But we'll talk about Thor 2 a little bit later.
We have the whole AMC family today because we also have our AMC production manager, Mr. Dennis Sen.
From now on, we should just call you AMC John.
AMC John.
Yeah, me and Kristen were there covering. It was a lot of fun, and we got to talk to most of the cast.
I hear Kristen actually got a chance to talk to
Anthony Hopkins.
Sir Anthony Hopkins,
yes.
which was kind of a thrill.
It was really exciting. We also have joining us our AMC News editor, Miss Amy Rose Eisenberg.
Hey guys, I was home under a blanket watching Cabin in the Woods, jealous of all you lovely people, but I'm glad you had a good time.
Well, listen, folks, we've got a bunch of movie news to get to here, but a piece of news kind of broke as we were on our way to the studio today that we thought we better talk about here first. Dennis, what's going on?
So Deadline is reporting that 20th Century Fox is in negotiations with James Mangold, who directed the latest Wolverine movie with Hugh Jackman, and they're talking about bringing him back for the sequel and Hugh Jackman as well. So we may see Jackman as Wolverine again.
That this is really big because if they're in negotiations with them, that means they have a plan. Mm-hmm. And if they have a plan, that means a couple things. We've been speculating, I know I've been speculating, that I think X-Men Days of Future Past might be the end of the road for Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, because he's kind of been talking about how the physical toll it takes him to be in that kind of shape that no human being should be in. And that he's done it for now, I don't know, what, 14 years he's been playing Wolverine, and that it's just time to kind of move on. But it sounds like they're more than happy to go back. Look, I really, really did enjoy the last Wolverine film. The last 20 minutes, total wash. I did not like the last 15 minutes. I didn't like the last 15 to 20 minutes of the film. Best after credit scene ever in a comic book movie. Amazing after credit scene. I'm all for this. I mean, look, I think Jackman deserves a round of applause and to say well done and let him go if he wanted to. But if he's up for coming back to play more Wolverine, that tells me a couple things. I think this means that Fox is really happy with Days of Future Past. I think if they're talking about another Wolverine film with Jackman, and Jackman himself is now thinking, yeah, maybe I'll come back again, I've got a suspicion, I've got nothing to back this up with, but I got a suspicion this means all of them are really happy with X-Men Days of Future Past. And to me, that's really exciting. And Dennis, you read this thing this morning. What jumps into your head when you hear about this?
I'm excited. I, like you, really like the last Wolverine movie. And I like James Mangold as a director, and Hugh Jackman, as long as they're not like, I'm sure they're not twisting his arm to, make him stay. So that means that he's still excited. As long as he's still excited to play that role, then I'm all for it.
Amy Rose?
Yeah, I really liked it. It definitely got the bad taste of Wolverine Origins out of my mouth a little
Oh,
bit.
yeah.
And I really liked the tone that Mangold said. And Hugh Jackman's amazing at this. And he was fierce and in better shape than ever, it was just a really good rendition, and I agree, the last 20 minutes. I think it all started to fall apart with the arrow scene, when he had like 100 arrows in his back, and he was like this, and like,
that whole scene, that Wolverine fighting 100 ninjas.
Yeah.
That's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
You just make Wolverine fight 100 ninjas, not have Wolverine running down the street getting shot with arrows. What a waste. You're right.
Exactly.
Totally unraveled there.
That's
totally
where it kind of fell, but I am really happy to hear this, and if that trailer, if that Days of Future Past trailer is indicative at all of what we're going to see, I could not be more excited. I literally had chills up and down my arms watching that. I thought the tone was great. Bryan Singer is so excited about this, and I love him in the character, so I'm really happy about this if it shakes out.
All right, well, let's get on to our regularly scheduled news for the day.
I just had to add my 2 cents because
Sure.
I loved this Wolverine. I think it's one of the best Wolverines we've seen Hugh Jackman give, and he's credited that all to Mangold. So the fact that they're teaming up again possibly is really exciting.
Yeah.
All right,
Agreed.
now I'll get into the regular news. Yesterday, director Peter Jackson and a number of his cast from the upcoming The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug, held a special fan event to celebrate the new film. As a part of this event, Jackson debuted a brand new 3 full minute trailer comprising of almost entirely new footage from any of the trailers we've previously seen. John, what do you think of the new trailer for The Hobbit, Desolation of Smaug?
You know, just when you think these trailers can't get any better, he puts out a 3-minute trailer. That is the best of the bunch. This is, I mean, and just not just from a fanboy, which I am, spazzing out, oh my God, this is a very well-constructed trailer. It gives us a real sense of the narrative flow, a lot of the character arcs and where they're coming from, the motivations and what's happening. I think we got our best sense of Thorin Oakenshield too, and what the complexity that's in Thorin, because we really think about it, all the depth that goes into this character, what he has lost, his obsession, why this, getting back to the mountain is his obsession. It's not just for the gold under there. It's his lineage, his legacy, his forebears. It's everything. And he is willing to step over his own mother, basically, to get to it. That last part of the trailer, with Smaug finally really talking, I am king under the mountain. It's like, oh yeah. This is going to be awesome. I love this. As a part of that fan event too, one of the really interesting things, they asked Evangeline Lilly, if she looked at, some of the performances in the older Lord of the Rings films for her elf character. She said, no, I actually wanted to avoid watching those again because I didn't want to catch myself just copying Liv Tyler. And so what she did, she studied Tinkerbell. She actually said she studied Tinkerbell because there's an innocence about her, there's a playfulness and all this kind of stuff, but when it comes down to it, she's also a fierce warrior, and I kind of wanted my elf character to reflect Tinkerbell a little bit. Now, I don't know if she's going to have magic pixie dust going all over the place.
Better, I'm telling you.
But yeah, I thought this trailer was amazing. It's hard to imagine every day. I think I can't be more excited for the next Hobbit film, and then something like this comes along and I'm more excited for the next Hobbit film. Anyway, Amy Rose, you had a chance to check it out. What did you think about it?
First of all, that's just adorable. Tinkerbell, like what? Never ever would have made that comparison. But yeah, I am really excited that we get to see Evangeline Lilly again. I loved her in Lost, and I know she's had a couple films here and there, but nothing that really stuck. Talk about being thrown in Middle Earth with a huge epic production. We're gonna be all eyes on her again. So I'm really looking forward to that. And you nailed it. I mean, this trailer is the best we've seen. It introduced a whole new arc that, it was teasing before, but I feel like we're actually getting a sense of where this next quest is going. And Benedict Cumberbatch, your voice, like, will you just sing me lullabies to sleep? Like, amazing. So I'm really excited about this. Peter Jackson does this world so incredibly well. I really liked the first Hobbit film, and I honestly, from everything I've seen and read, I think this is going to be even better. Everything. I think it's going to be really rich. And I loved the trailer.
Dennis?
Yeah, I thought the trailer was great. I'm a person who I really liked the Hobbit movie, but it wasn't to me like as much as I loved the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Yeah.
However, seeing this trailer makes me excited, and I'm thinking that maybe the second one is going to achieve that type of greatness, because I think the tone's different. It's less lighthearted. It's much more serious. There's many more players involved, so. Yeah, I think this one could maybe possibly match the Lord of the Rings.
And Legolas is back. Woo!
And Legolas is back because of family. There's a part of this special fan event too. They showed a bunch of behind-the-scenes footage, and there's this great little clip. We see some of it in the trailer where the Elf King from the first one as well, the young-looking dude with the long blonde hair and that really cool crown, is I guess that's Legolas's father. And he's having this really serious talk with Evangeline Lilly's character. And we see segments of that in the trailer. But I guess they're having a pretty contentious discussion. And they showed a behind-the-scenes clip with them shooting that scene in front of a green screen. And there's a big, a beautiful greenage in the room and even a beautiful pool right beside them, blah, blah. And there's a line in there where he's finished with Evangeline trailer and says, now leave, whatever. And in the behind-the-scenes thing, he's like, now leave. Or get in the hot tub. And then everybody just cracked up. It was pretty funny to see. Anyway, what's next?
According to reports, 300 and Olympus Has Fallen star Gerard Butler is in talks to star as Kane in the upcoming film adaptation of the popular video game series Kane and Lynch. It also appears Butler would be reuniting with his law-abiding citizen director, Gary Gray. There are also unconfirmed reports that the role of Lynch could be played by Vin Diesel. A Kane and Lynch film was in development a few years ago with Bruce Willis and Jamie Foxx attached to star, but that project failed to launch. Kane and Lynch follows Adam, Kane Marcus, a mercenary who makes an unlikely alliance with a schizophrenic killer named James Lynch. The duo is forced on a mission to retrieve a stolen microchip. The original game, Kane and Lynch, Dead Men, was released in 2007 and sold over 1 million copies. It was followed by a sequel titled Kane and Lynch 2, Dog Days. Dennis, what do you think of a Kane and Lynch film?
I'm actually kind of surprised of all these video game movies that possibly, or video games that may possibly be movies. Kane and Lynch just doesn't jump out at me as this one that they have to do. It seems like this project has they tried to make it, it died. They try to make it, they keep trying. And it's a popular video game series, but it's not one of the upper echelon, you know?
Right.
I'd rather see something like a Halo, a Fallout, a Mass Effect, something like that. Even a Grand Theft Auto or something, you know? But Kane and Lynch to me just doesn't sound like something that has to be made into a movie. I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
Amy Rose?
Yeah, I didn't actually play this game, so I don't have prior knowledge of that, but the narrative to me does sound pretty cool. I do like this kind of premise, and Vin Diesel and Gerard Butler seem like kind of an odd pairing, and you know I'm into that, so I do think it would be kind of interesting to see that played out, but I'm glad they are exploring material because games like this, I mean, they do have a built-in audience, and again, this narrative sounds really cool, and if they did it right, I mean, look at that picture alone. It's pretty badass, so I am intrigued, but like you, I've been waiting for a Halo film, like, done right, because that is one of my favorite games of all time, but yeah, I feel like there's a lot of other source material that they could pick, but there's obviously a reason they're going to try to bring this to the big screen, so I'm curious how it will play out.
This is one of the games I've never, one among many games that I've never played, but I spent many hours watching buddies of mine play. And the thing that jumps, you're right, Dennis, this is not one of the more popular video game franchises. I mean, it's like it had its second game. I don't think it has a third. I don't know even though there's plans for a third game. But the thing is, I remember watching the game and thinking, this is really cinematic. The characters are set up in such a way. These are movie characters. When I'm watching what's going on between Kane and Lynch and their backgrounds and the chemistry the two characters have together, I think these are film characters. This is a story you could easily put onto the big screen as a film. I think a lot better than, say, a lot of the more popular video games. I think this one is better set up and positioned to be a really cool movie, even if nobody had ever heard of it. And like you said, and you're absolutely right, this isn't one of the more popular ones. But I think the fact that Hollywood has tried several times to make it is a testament to the fact that, yeah, there's a really good cinematic story here to do. They haven't been able to get it off the ground. Maybe this is the right one. And I'm with you. A Vin Diesel, Gerard Butler pairing? That sounds really weird.
Yeah.
And I like it. So I'd be on board for that. All right, folks, listen, we've reached that part of the show called Buy and Sell. Here's how this works. There's a bunch of other items in the world of movie news right now, and we don't have time to go into them in depth, so Chris Lee's going to run them down, and then Amy Rose, Dennis, and I are simply going to say whether we buy it or sell it. So, Chris Lee, what do we got?
Co-stars of the 2007 film 1408, Samuel L. Jackson and John Cusack, are reportedly set to reteam for the new Stephen King film called Cell. Artist Clayton Riddle had been in Boston negotiating a successful deal to sell his comic book project. His joy at finally hitting it big is shattered by an event called the Pulse, which causes all those who were using their cell phones at the time of the Pulse to become zombies, attacking and killing anyone in their way. Fortunately for Clay, he does not own a cell phone. In the panic to get out of Boston and find his way home to his wife and son in Maine, he is joined by Tom McCourt, a man he meets in the melee immediately following the Pulse, and a young girl, Alice, who they rescue from being killed by one of the crazies. Amy Rose, buy or sell the sounds of Cell?
I'm gonna buy this. It sounds so fun and ridiculous, and I love Stephen King, and it kind of feels like an anti-consumerism commercial. Your cell phone. So I don't know. I think it sounds pretty fun and ridiculous. I'm in.
Dennis?
I'm going to sell it. All I can think of is that scene in Forgetting Sarah Marshall where Jason Segel is sitting down with Mila Kunis, Kristen Bell, and Russell Brand, and he's making fun of a movie that Kristen Bell's character did about where she gets killed by the cell phone, or people are getting murdered by cell phones.
That's hilarious.
So yeah, I don't know. It's a little too technophobic for me. Like, you know, like just like with the whole NSA thing, people are like, oh my God, all these people, the government's spying on us. The government doesn't care about you and your stupid emails and what you're talking.
Speak for yourself, Dennis.
What you're talking. You're not that interesting. That's what I'm trying to say.
I'm going to buy it. I think this just sounds slightly crazy enough and wacky enough to work. I do like the pairing of John Cusack and Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
Stephen King has a really weird way of twisting things to be really quite interesting. And we are kind of living in and you're right, kind of a rebound phase of people now starting to think, we use too much technology. And the whole thing with the cell phone stuff, I don't know what the direction they're going to go with it. I haven't read Cell yet. But to me, this sounds pretty cool, so for me, it's a buy.
I know what most of you are thinking. Where is a good Bigfoot versus Werewolves movie when you need one?
Where is it?
Well, I have good news. It looks like one is finally on the way. It's being reported that the graphic novel Savage has been optioned for a big screen adaptation, and the screenplay will be co-written by 30 Days of Night writer Steve Niles. The story of Savage is described like this. Peter is a shoe salesman desperate for a life transformation. Sam is a hunter of things that would scare the hell out of a lesser man. These two collide in the middle of an epic battle between vicious werewolves and the legendary Bigfoot. And that's just the beginning. John, buy or sell The Sounds of Savage?
Where is it? Take all my money. Take it all. Take all of it. I buy it. I think this sounds awesome. I'm so into this idea. It's going to be awful. Make no mistake about it. But this sounds fantastic. I mean, they've run out of things for werewolves to fight. They fight Dracula. They fight, other vampires. They fight, whatever. They need to fight Bigfoot. It reminds me a lot. There was a little indie horror film, you guys might have seen it, out about 8 years ago, called Abominable. Do you remember that?
No.
Oh my gosh, it was so cheesy but so legitimately scary at the same time. About about Bigfoot going kind of crazy and just starts eating a lot of people. But anyway, Bigfoot versus werewolves. Yeah, I'm in. I buy. Amy Rose?
Can't follow you on this one. I'm gonna sell this one. I love me some werewolves. I just bought the zombie one ahead of this, but Bigfoot, I just think they're going to make him look so ridiculous on the big screen in this epic battle.
I hope they do.
It's going to be one of those movies that's so bad it's probably fun, but it's probably not meant to be a comedy, and I think I'm going to be laughing from beginning to end. So I'm going to sell it for now, but maybe a couple cocktails down the line, I would enjoy it.
Dennis?
I'm going to buy it.
Yes.
Just Bigfoot fighting werewolves. That's all you have to say. They're just on the screen and then just going at each other.
Damn it, take my money now.
No.
All right, what's
Somehow
next?
all I see in my head is Harry and the Hendersons, so I just can't get with you on this. With Anchorman 2 opening in AMC theaters everywhere on December 25th, 4 new character posters have just been released online for the film, showing us Ron, Brick, Brian, and Champ. Dennis, buy or sell these new character posters for Anchorman 2?
Oh, I buy these. I love that they're in these like superhero poses with these giant buildings around them. And of course, Ron Burgundy, Will Ferrell's is the best. All you have to do is look at where the building is placed. Yeah.
I gotta buy these as well. But to me, the one that I really love is Brick. The whole pose with Brick there like that. Steve Carell's done so much great stuff in his career. I still think Brick might be my favorite Steve Carell character that I've ever seen. So yeah, I love these. All look great. So for me, it's a buy.
Yeah, I saw Anchorman and I was like, I'm gonna buy this. It's just assumed. Everything they've done for the promotional campaign about this, from Ron Burgundy's memoir to these, I'm not worried at all about the sequel. I think it's going to capture the magic and the nostalgia of the first, bring us to New York with a new adventure for our favorite news team, and add some great new characters like Kristen Wiig and Harrison Ford, and I could not be more excited for this. It still remains one of my favorite comedies, and come on, way to be relevant. Yeah.
Co-stars of the film Adventureland, Kristen Stewart and Jesse Eisenberg, are set to again star opposite one another in the action comedy film American Ultra. The film will be directed by Project X Helmer, Nima Nourizadeh, based on a screenplay written by Chronicle scribe Max Landis. American Ultra follows Mike, a young stoner who, alongside his girlfriend Phoebe, played by Stewart, becomes targeted by a top-secret government operation. Amy Rose, buy or sell The Sounds of American Ultra?
Now, based on that synopsis alone, I wouldn't buy it, but the players behind it, I am going to buy it, because I thought Project X was a really fun movie, and I loved Chronicle. I think Max Landis is a solid writer. He's really making moves, and Kristen Stewart, I know she gets a bad rap, but I loved her in Adventureland with Jesse Eisenberg, so I think all the players, along with that very odd synopsis, like why are they following them? Why are they on their trail? So yeah, I'm intrigued for now. So it's a buy.
Dennis?
I buy it for the same reasons as you. I like Max Landis' script for Chronicle. That was a great movie. Project X is one of those movies that I actually enjoyed, even though it was so stupid.
It was so fun, though.
I mean, why would that hot chick go after that guy just because he's throwing a party?
That's real life, Dennis.
I know.
Yeah, it is.
I might as well start, getting ready to throw an epic party. But yeah, the players behind it, I thought Adventureland was okay, but this sounds like it could be really fun.
Yeah.
I'm going to sell it. I'm with you guys that there's 3 for 3 here. I liked Project X. I thought it was a fun movie. I really did. I laughed quite a bit on it. You're right, Landis. I think I love Chronicle. I really want to see where he goes from here. I detested Adventureland. I thought it was an awful film. Like, not just not good. I thought it was awful. And I think if scientists were to create a charisma black hole, I think the faces of Kristen Stewart and Jesse Eisenberg would appear in that charisma black hole.
Wow.
I don't like either of them. I think Jesse Eisenberg is a dramatic version of Michael Cera. I think where Michael Cera is just the same guy in everything we've seen him in, other than maybe Scott Pilgrim. He's just the same guy, more on the comedy side. Jesse Eisenberg is, to me, is just always the exact same guy. Expressionless, emotionless. He has no range. I'm not a fan of his. I want to be a fan of his.
Zombieland? You didn't like him in Zombieland?
I didn't like him in Zombieland. I liked
love
Zombieland,
Zombieland.
but it was like if I hadn't seen anything else Jesse Eisenberg was in, maybe I would have liked him in Zombieland. But when I watch him in Zombieland, it's like he's the same guy. He's been in every single movie, just in a different situation. Now, a lot of people really love Jesse Eisenberg. Maybe I'm out to lunch on that, but that's just the way. So that reason, though, didn't like Adventureland. Look, Snow White. Kristen Stewart was just terrible in Snow White. She was just awful in it. And I'm not even talking about the Twilight films. I'm just talking about that. So, yeah, I just can't do it. I can't buy it. So for me, it's going to be a sell. All right, folks, listen, we've reached that part of the show called Mailbag. Listen, if you've got a topic or a question you'd like us to address on the show, you can email us anytime at amcmovietalk@gmail.com. Now, every day we take a couple questions out of the mailbag. Kristen Lee has a few of them pulled out. So, Kristen Lee, what do we got?
I'm going to apologize in advance for butchering your name. So we're going to go with Gersinho Suarez writes, Kevin Feige is coordinating at least a half a dozen films in various stages of production, making sure their individual arcs serve the overall direction. The universe that Feige oversees is like the real universe expanding. Why doesn't DC pick or choose someone like him to do the same for their upcoming DC shared universe? For example, Bruce Timm, Paul Dini, Jeff Johns, or Jim Lee. I know these guys have done a lot for the animation department, so their input would of course help directors like Zack Snyder make the best movies possible, not just for the fans, but also for the general movie audience.
Well, understand something, though. When you're talking about Kevin Feige, who I was actually talking with last night, he's a very cool guy, actually. Kevin Feige is not the godfather of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Kevin Feige is the president of production of Marvel Studios. That, what you just described, is what the president of production does. And as a matter, Warner Brothers does have a president of production who oversees all that. Because his name's Greg Silverman, and he's in charge of worldwide production and development. He's also in charge of story development. So he is that. Now, maybe they'll also get another guy to kind of be a vice president under him just to look at Warner Brothers films. But so they do have that guy. Whenever, though, the conversation comes around about getting, it's a ridiculous term, godfathering, they got somebody in charge. But whenever the conversation comes about someone to godfather the DC Cinematic Universe, it always seems to be like comic book artists or animation guys. And it's like, these guys don't really know anything about the business of running a studio and the business of making sure all the pieces are together. It's not just sitting down and being a story arc guy. That's just about getting a good writer. Get a good writer, you can handle the story. Although getting a good writer can be harder than it sounds. But you want a guy in charge. The thing about Kevin Feige, he is a mastermind at giving overall direction, but he also pulls all the strings. He understands the business. He understands the studio side. He understands everything that goes into this thing rather than just sitting down and writing the story. He is in charge of all of it, and you need a guy who is good at all of that. Not just somebody who writes a really good comic book or somebody who makes a good animated film. You need somebody who can do the whole big picture. Kevin Feige is a very rare guy that he can do it so good and so well and so successfully. But other studios have the same. It feels recently like Warner Brothers finally has their footing and they're finally heading in the right direction. We'll know in the next couple of years whether Silverman can pull off and be a Kevin Feige or not. But let's give him some time now that they've got their Nolan Batman franchise behind them. They got the Man of Steel launch. They got Batman versus Superman coming. You know they got plans for other things down the road. Let's see how Silverman does. I've got a feeling he's going to do well at it. Anyway, Amy Rose, how do you see all this?
Yeah, I think that we really lucked out with Kevin Feige because you really need to have that business sense. You can't just be a fanboy. I know we all talk about, staying true to the material and all this, but certain liberties are taken with material, and people that respect the universe enough, like Feige, who really are true fans, those are the people that I trust with this universe. And I mean, with DC though, indirectly, it's kind of becoming Goyer, Snyder, and Nolan. I mean, Goyer and Nolan were already on The Dark Knight together. They're kind of paving the way a little bit. They're not godfathering it per se, but they are really taking their direction. And I mean, with World's Finest, Superman vs. Batman, whatever they call this film in the end, and hopefully Justice League, I could really see this tripod along with Ben Affleck kind of shaping the way. So I do think we're finally in the right direction. But yeah, we really lucked out with Feige. And while I would like to see, someone that really respects material, like all the animators and creators that you've mentioned, having that business component is so important because there are so many people behind the scenes that they have to work with, and to really speak the language of studio terms and business terms allows you to kind of go farther with that and get faith for the production that you might not have if you don't speak that language. I mean, I've always said that business-minded artists are going to be the most successful if you understand both sides. So we really did luck out with Kevin Feige. He is such a humble, passionate guy, and I have so much faith. But I do think DC's about to step it up. Give us our Wonder Woman, and we're going to have more faith.
Dennis?
Yeah, I think they need someone that's a executive or a producer that knows how to handle this movie business. The ones that they mentioned, they don't have the experience. And not only the experience, they need respect. Because if they're going to oversee these big movies, who's going to tell Chris Nolan what to do, Right. Who's going to tell Zack Snyder what to do? Who's telling Ben Affleck what to do? So you need someone that is respected and knows all this stuff. And bringing someone in from the comic book or the animation world, I just don't see that happening. So it definitely, I don't know if it could be Goyer, Nolan, because I don't know if they're going to stick around long enough. You need someone that's there for the long haul. And I have a feeling those guys will want to do something else with their time later on. So maybe it's a Silverman guy, or if they find someone that's just dedicated just to, not WB, but to the DC universe.
Yeah, you raise a really good point about the guy needing to have respect. One of the really cool things when you talk to Joss Whedon, and I know all of us have at some point or another, talking to Joss Whedon, if you're just a fan, you might be under the impression that Joss Whedon is in charge of what's going on at Marvel. He's not. If you talk to Joss Whedon will tell you straight out, there is one in the throne, and that's Kevin Feige.
Yeah.
And what Kevin Feige says goes, and everybody else takes their direction and their paces from him. And Kevin Feige is smart enough to say, Whedon, you're the genius at telling story. Now, this is what I want to have happen in this movie, but you make that story. You go, I give you the freedom to go and do that. And then he goes, taking the parameters that Feige gives him. But then Feige also then goes and talks to the producers and hammers out, look, we need this location. We need this budget. We need these rights. We need this. Like, he's the guy who can sit on the throne, be in charge, and command the respect. I love that you brought that up, of guys, creative guys, like a Joss Whedon, or a Kenneth Branagh, or a Robert Downey Jr. when he's got to be reeled in. You need somebody who's strong enough, business savvy enough, and creative enough who can do all of that. These guys are really rare, and that's why they make the big bucks.
Yep.
We talked to him about that on the red carpet last night, so wait till the footage comes out.
Very cool.
Santiago W. writes, love your show, guys. I just found out about you like a week ago, and I'm catching up on older episodes and new ones, too.
Cool.
I heard in an episode of Movie Talk, you made a review of Pacific Rim and Man of Steel, and I searched for them immediately. I love them. It was so much fun to hear your opinions of the movies. I couldn't believe the Man of Steel reviews was 1 hour long. I had so much fun. I didn't realize the time. Please make more of these reviews just like this one, full of spoilers, because really, I felt I was discussing the movie with friends.
Yeah, those reviews we did were kind of like test pilot programs. We are going to be doing more reviews actually coming up, and I'm not going to give too much away, but we are going to be doing more reviews, and we're going to be doing a Thor 2 review. And they are all going to be completely spoiler-filled. Completely spoiler-filled. See, a lot of times movie reviews are made to help audiences decide if they want to go see a movie or not. That's not our job.
No.
That would be a conflict of interest for us being AMC theaters to tell you, hey, don't go see this movie or go see this one instead. That's not our job. But Rather, our reviews that we put online are meant for those of us who have already seen the film and we want to sit around. It's kind of like an ESPN example, right? Like you watch the football game if you're a sports fan, you watch the football game, but then you want to watch ESPN afterwards to hear the discussion about the football game that you just watched. And that's kind of our mentality with our quote-unquote reviews, is that we're going to watch the film, we're not going to put out a review before the movie comes out, we'll put it out after the movie comes out, and we're going to let everybody know we're going into every spoiler there is possibly to have about this movie. So this review is only for those of you who have watched the movie, and then we can sit down and talk, you know, like friends standing around a movie cooler talking about it. And the next one up that we're going to do is Thor 2. I'm really excited about doing that one. What is your, Amy Rose, when you take an approach and you're asked to review movies and things like that, what approach do you take and how do you see it fitting in with what we do here?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I love those. Santiago, you are one of our friends, so come on by, sit on the couch. But yeah, I really love when we do that because opposed to this where we're kind of restricted to certain topics and just keeping it tight, we are able to have our passionate ramblings in full effect. I mean, remember our Ben Affleck cast as Batman talk? That was an hour too.
Yeah.
How did that happen? I feel like I literally was just talking to you guys about it, adding my 2 cents, and before we knew it, an hour went by. So I really do love that we have, you know, the ability to do that. We have the platform to do that because when it comes down to it, we're all diehard movie fans. That's why we're in this. And so it feels really nice to have those uninhibited conversations about it. But, you know, when I do review a film, I try to take, you know, my fangirl, everything out of the picture and just watch it, hopefully without prior knowledge of it, and just go in and just have a good time in the theater. I mean, I'm willing to suspend reality and just be thrown into the world of Asgard and just like have a great time. And I'm really excited about Thor. And I mean, I'm a cinephile to the core. I mean, movies are what I like to talk about. And it's great that I'm on a team of people that I can do that with. So thank you for your support. And we can't wait to share Thor 2 with you on our couch.
Dennis?
I prefer to do the spoiler-filled type of review.
Me too.
Because when you're talking about things in vague terms or vague plot lines, vague characters, you can't really get into the details of why you think a certain way. It's very hard. You want to talk about a specific sequence or a scene or somebody's acting and what happens at the end. And so having a spoiler-filled discussion gives you the freedom. And I feel like that's the best way to do it,
Absolutely.
you know, because that way people can understand where you're coming from. Because if you do one that's like that doesn't have any spoilers, you're kind of like limiting yourself, and I don't know, I just don't like that.
That's the hardest part of junkets for me because you're not really allowed to talk about specific scenes. So when I was at the Thor 2 junket, you know, there are a couple things I wanted to be like, oh, that was so amazing. But, you know, those are presented to the audience who have not seen the film yet. So this gives us free range to be like, all right, all bets are off. Like, we warned you, you can't get mad at us now. And to actually talk about the specifics that really moved us or that were funny or whatever. Because this film is packed with a lot of humor. I was laughing a lot for Thor. I loved it.
It's kind of like, whether doing spoiler-filled reviews versus not, it's like, okay, so here's a good example. Dennis and I are UFC fans, right? So let's say there's a big UFC card on last night, and I couldn't watch it, but I recorded it, and I'm going to watch it later. So now Dennis and I are talking, and I say to Dennis, who did see it, now Dennis, tell me all about the card last night, but don't tell me what happens.
Yeah.
How fun is that conversation
Not at
going
all.
to be? Not very fun. So, I mean, I think it's best for us that way. Look, we want you to go see every movie playing at AMC theaters. Of course, we want you to go see Delivery Man coming up, Thor 2, Book Thief, Ender's Game, Bad Grandpa, Las Vegas. We want you to go see all of them. So that's not our job to tell you which ones to go see. But we'll talk about them afterwards, and we can sit around as friends and discuss it. All right, folks, listen, we've gone a little bit over time. Thank you so much for joining us today. First of all, I want to thank those joining me at the table right now, sitting to my immediate right. He is, of course, the production manager for AMC Movie News, Mr. Dennis Zen. Dennis, where can people find you online?
You guys can find me on Twitter at ThinkHero and on YouTube, ThinkHero Pro.
And sitting to his right, she is the editor of Movie News here at AMC, Miss Amy Rose Eisenbach. Amy Rose, where can people find you?
On Twitter at Amy Rosie. Thanks so much.
And of course, our lovely host who was on covering the red carpet for us last night at Thor 2, Miss Chris Lee Kennedy. Chris Lee, where can people find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Chris Lee.
And you can find me on all the various social networks just at John Campia. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. Listen, don't forget, if you haven't done so already, take a second to subscribe to our AMC Movie News YouTube channel. If you want to listen to an audio-only version of this episode, look down in the description of this video and you'll find links to our Stitcher and our iTunes podcasts. Thank you so much for joining us again. My name is John Campia for AMC Movie News, and until next time, bye-bye.
If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to AMC Movie News on YouTube. It's free and a great way to stay updated with all the latest movie news and check out our daily show, AMC Movie Talk. Also, don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Twitter to stay in the loop for our special prizes, giveaways, and contests.